broadcasting live out of a basement in Appleton, Wisconsin. You're tuned into Fox Cities Core on WCZR Code Zero Radio. We're the show that gives you an opportunity to call in and be a part of the show. Our call-in line is 920-358-0795. Core. My next guest has played in various bands over the last couple decades. Most recently, he's released a couple albums on the One Week record label. He's toured internationally many times. I'd like to welcome Walt Hamburger to Fox Cities Core. Walt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's good to know which one you are today.
That's a twin joke, isn't it?
Yeah. I tried to save it for the end, but usually in public I get a little confused. But today I have a pretty good idea who I'm talking to, so that's good.
I appreciate you bringing the spread over there.
Yeah.
What are you working with over there?
I brought you some hot sauce from California. We ordered it, and my girlfriend wants it out of the house. So it's the Pepper Plant Original California style. They didn't have Tabasco out there when we were out there. We went to Big Sur last year. So I was taking in the hot sauces. So I wanted this, and then I ordered it, and it never came. And then I ordered 2 more, and then they all came on like the same day. And so we tried it. And we have 2 more, so it's open, and you can... Do you like hot sauce?
I do now.
Oh, boy. I mean, it's not that good. It's pretty good. Oh, yeah, okay. Welcome to Flavor Country. Let's see. I brought some wafers. These are good. You can get these at festivals for like $1.67. Mount Olive pickles, which I thought would be good for like the AMSR fans out there. Gatorade. A couple beers and a beer. I think that's... Oh, and some DuPont medium cheddar. I've only really had their 2-year sharp cheddar, which is very good.
How long do you plan on staying?
That's a good question. Until I get kicked out. But yeah, I don't know. I ran out of bags, so this is actually pizza foil from Riverside Pizza in Iron River that we held on to like 3 years ago.
I appreciate that. It's really nice of you, Walt.
Yeah, I figured I'd...
Well, this hot sauce, I look forward to trying.
Yeah, you try that when you're feeling like some hot sauce.
Yeah, maybe I'll have some during the show at some point.
Who's stopping you?
So let's right off the bat ask you. You've had kind of a whirlwind career so far, and you've been in the scene for quite a while, and then you sort of took off around 2014. Well, I should say it took off to like you reached a new level of
sure.
Of stardom. Can I use that word, stardom?
Absolutely.
Let's, before we get too far into what happened, let's talk about how you got started in music.
I think music was always just something I did. I like to sing, I guess, in the crib quite a bit. Like Bye Bye Birdie, I think it was, or something like that. And then I remember when I first started playing instruments, besides like just picking up pianos and stuff, not picking up pianos, but playing pianos when they were around and things like that. 4th grade, they're like, everybody pick an instrument and sit down and we'll make noise. And I thought the trombone looked the most fun. And so I did that, and I was pretty good at it. And so that was kind of, jazz was sort of the thing all the way through high school. I was good at it. I had offers for colleges. I did go to college for trombone, actually, but I dropped out pretty quick because you're supposed to practice like 8 hours a day, and it was just kind of like a thing I was good at but didn't want to do. Like, remember Ricky Williams, the running back from Texas, that really, all he really wanted to do was smoke pot, but he was really good at football? That's how I felt, but nothing to do with pot, but I just I knew I was very good at trombone, but it just wasn't, like improvisation, that was my strength. But it wasn't what I wanted to do with my life. And going to college to play an instrument like that is kind of pointless. Like you can learn a lot, but your degree isn't going to do anything for you. Like no band is going to hire you because you got a degree somewhere.
So with the trombone, there are bands that have trombones in, but I mean...
Yeah, Dusk. Ska bands, right? Like Dusk? Yeah.
So were there a lot of people that are interested in music at your high school?
Well, I mean, like my graduating class had Yesterday's Kids in it. I was good friends with those guys, Tim and Justin mainly, and Screwballs also preceding that, and Amazing Larry before that, or Amazing Larry after that, I guess. And then there were some other bands that came out of that, and then of course Tenement, before that, Social Classics. Like Nina had some good stuff, I think. So there was like definitely like not only like a lot of people that listened to kind of the punk rock thing, but then a lot of them that were actually doing it. I mean, Yesterday's Kids got signed like to the panic button lookout thing like a couple years after we graduated. You know, like, man, I feel like I'm breathing really hard. It's smoky out. I'm a big guy over here, you know. So that's the story of Nina. I just said it. Ed Temple too, and yeah, they existed.
So what was the first like time you picked up a guitar?
So like, I had a friend named Weston Rose who his dad collected instruments, and he lived pretty close, and he wanted to do like a jazz kind of like play at bars and long, you know, like 10, 12-minute songs, just kind of like jam, but not like, you know, Grateful Dead jam, like, you know, like rock, whatever, Chicago-ish, Cream, that sort of thing. And his dad collected instruments, so he let me borrow one of his, at one of those little times we got together, like one of his old like spray painted guitars, and that's kind of how I learned it. And then I think when I was 15 or 16, I had my first job for the Nina Parks department, teaching kids how to play baseball. I think I made like $600 the whole summer, and I bought a Cort guitar that looked like Slash's guitar, and I can't even think of the name of the amp. It was just like a 15-watt intro amp. You know, I still have it. I have both of those still, but that's where I learned. You know, like I kind of taught myself mostly. I would like go. This is before the internet, kids. So like you didn't have the YouTube to teach you how to do stuff. I never learned tablature or anything like that. So I would go to school and ask people, you know, how to just teach me one chord today, and then I would learn that and try to work it into a song or something.
Well, as far as what you were listening to in that time period, were you listening to are we talking like the late 90s? That
yeah,
era?
mid to late 90s was high school. I graduated in 99. I'm 332 years old. I first like started listening to punk because of you know, Green Day, probably like I think 7th or 8th grade. People started around me listening to like Offspring and Green Day and Rancid, NoFX and Bad Religion and Descendants, and Screeching Weasel was really big in Nina for some reason. So once I started hearing that stuff, it kind of like blew my mind how fun music could be. And so I really got into it. And like a lot of our freshman class at Nina got into punk rock and then just moved on like really quickly. Like they wanted to go to shows just to run around and bump into people, and it was exciting and stuff, but I really liked the music. And so I was one of the, you know, people that just kept enjoying it probably too long. Do you want a pickle?
I'm good for now.
They're Mount Olive. They're good. They're big, though.
Might hit you up later for one of those pickles.
Yeah, man. I brought enough.
So, as far as concerts go and things like that, I think there was the notorious Green Day concert that took place in
Ridgeway.
Were you there?
I wasn't allowed to go. My best friend's sister went, or had tickets, and maybe she wasn't allowed to go too. I can't talk about what he did there, but he did a thing. But I know about it.
So you're known for like playing acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
You learned on an electric?
The first guitar I ever had was electric. I think I was gifted an acoustic guitar shortly thereafter, and I think I always wrote mostly my music on an acoustic, and then like just transferred it to you know, full band setting for all that stuff, because I did up till, you know, the last almost 10 years. I'm doing a really good job not swearing. I've almost done it like 4 times.
Appreciate it.
You know, that was, bands were the thing, you know, and I still play in some sort of bands like every now and then. But yeah, the acoustic thing, I don't know, you just kind of like, it's a good way to write songs, and then you kind of just go from there. And then now it's kind of the opposite.
So when did the Hamburgers officially start?
Hamburgers, so it was Caution the Wind, and then we were really bad, and then we did, then I started Honor Amongst Thieves with Brian Giebisch, who is from Nina. He was in the Screwballs as well, and we played 2003, 2004, and then right at the tail end of that, 2004, I think, is when we started the Hamburgers, and Mike Sorolla is the guy that I played. He lives a block from you, which is kind of exciting. He's still the drummer that I have now. He played in jazz band and band with me way back in Nina, and then let's see. I keep forgetting you're recording this visually, and I'm just like, he was. I were playing in a band called Lobot's Task, and this guy Ben came to one of our practices, one of our shows, and we were looking for a bass player to start a punk band, and he was excited about the Lubbock's Task show, so we started up, and we were a flash in the pan for how much people still remember us, but it was like a year and a half, 2004, 2005, I think.
And you guys weren't playing covers, you're writing originals?
Yeah, no, we were just straight up rock and roll punk. I don't know if we really had like a specific influence because we all came from different backgrounds. Like Mike really loves Queen and Led Zeppelin, and I was still into the 90s punk thing, and Ben was into like 60s rock and roll. So our songs just kind of, we all just added our thing to it, whatever that meant, and lots of harmonies, lots of fun. Like we were just, I think we were just kind of fun, even if the music wasn't necessarily, like the words weren't super positive, although they mostly were in that band, unlike a lot of the other stuff. But yeah.
And then, so the Hamburgers, the songs, a lot of the content had to do with like burgers and things like that. Like, whose idea was it? Was it sort of like, hey, we're going to start this band, let's call it the Hamburgers, let's just write.
Well, I couldn't believe that the Hamburgers wasn't a name. It's just such a Americana, like the Beatles. I mean, I know the Beatles aren't from America, but there's just so many names that's just like the thing. And Hamburgers just seemed so obvious, and it was just like, wow, how is this not used? So I think I came into practice early on with the Hamburger Anthem, just kind of like this song that was just like really over the top, kind of funny, like all written in like, 20 minutes, just like, And then Ben had a song about hamburgers, and then I think we made one or two more. But it's been 15 years now since I've on purpose ate meat, but back then, it was pretty nice because you'd go to shows and everybody would want to take you to their favorite hamburger joint and they'd pay for it. So like on our tours, we'd just eat hamburgers like all the time. It was really cool.
Where were you guys playing a lot back? Was it at the like the New Moon?
We played at actually, yes. I forgot about how much. Yeah, that back when the mirrors would fog up at the New Moon and the Blue Moon, we played both those places quite a bit. Hamburgers played a lot in what? Well, I get them confused because I'm so very old now. But there was like a place in Shawano, a lot of stuff in Green Bay, like the Eagles Club, which they just tore down. We played a ton of shows there with Leghounds, Groovy Ghoulies, Vertebreakers, Rumors, bands like that.
How does it feel like when you saw the news at the
That made me
Eagles
sad.
Club?
Because it's like nothing lasts in Green Bay venue-wise. Like, and I know it's not a venue, and it hasn't, not a real venue, and it hasn't been a venue in forever. But it was. I mean, that's kind of where, like Tom Smith was like, I think that's where I met you, and I can't really tell if that's actually true because I know I played a few shows at Rock and Roll High School, but I don't know if he was there. There were like the pep rally things or whatever, or like a show at the Benjamins once. I don't know why he would be at that show, but. I met a lot of people there for the first time. And it was years of just going up and driving to that, first the shows were always on the big side, and then they moved it to the little bingo room. And it was always fun or scary, one of the two. I was a young guy, so I was newer to the scene than a lot of people, so I felt like I had to earn my, whatever, people liking me.
When did it feel... Like, are you comfortable now when you perform?
With what?
Just when you're doing a performance, kind of compared to how you were like when you're playing at the Eagles.
Well, I never had trouble with the performance. It was more the talking to the people and feeling like I fit in that crowd. Because I started later than everybody else, and my first band was terrible. And I used to do that bullshit thing where my band would show up late, so we didn't play first. And I think Tom caught on, and like I pissed him off, and I feel bad about that now because what a stupid thing. Now I'm like the 2 hours early to a show. Like I'm just like, where's the sound check? What can I do for you to make this go well?
Well, so you guys put out the Songs in the Key of Beef, which is a great name for an album.
Yeah.
And then you put out Mad Cow Disease.
Yeah.
How were those albums?
We sold tons of those. I mean, hundreds and hundreds. It was all CDRs. Like just. I think, actually, no, Mad Cow Disease we did press with the place in Madison that's still going called Super Duper.
And you had Tim Schwager and Justin Perkins working on both of those.
Yep. Justin was the engineer and did some production as well and mixing and mastering. And we did both of those albums pretty much live. Like we just, we went in with the first one.
I think it was Simple Studios.
Yeah.
You did?
Yep. Best studio ever. I miss that place. We went in there with 2 days to record 2 songs. Try to get them really good. And we recorded 12. Poor Justin mixing and mastering like in one, 4-hour session, the whole thing. So we would do like the whole thing live, and then we would add the vocals, and that was pretty much it. And then the same thing with Mad Cow Disease. We wanted to do 4, We were there like 2 or 3 days, and we ended up doing 20. Well, we were a tight band, so we could do that. The records I think sound pretty good, but a lot of that's just what Justin did. And then Tim, of course, we had him to produce and do some background vocals and some. I think he did a guitar solo in the first one. I don't think he worked on the second one because we were moving to 2 guitars, and he didn't like that as much. So
was the band pretty stable as far as the same band members for each release?
Yeah, it was me, Ben, and Mike all the way through, and then Tim filled in on drums a couple times live, and then when we did a reunion a couple years ago at Mile, he played lead guitar.
Did Aaron Newman play on that?
He never played in the Hamburgers, but he played in Honor Amongst Thieves, and he was the bass. And then he's in the thing I do now with the Bad Puns when we do the occasional full band stuff. Him and me and world famous in every band in Wisconsin now, Texas Butter Todd. Yeah, Car City's own Jason Lemke, and then of course Mike Sorolla. Good guys. We're gonna hopefully practice soon because we got a show coming up, Fox River House, the big time, baby.
So Honor Amongst Thieves, that was before the Hamburgers?
Yeah, that would have been me, Brian Giebisch, John Wallace, and Aaron Newman, and then Aaron left and Giebisch left, and then we got in Bobby and Tess, and they filled in for, I don't know, Bobby was an upright bass player. That was kind of fun for a while. Then when our van exploded. Do you think if, I was thinking this last night, I was going to bring this up, like, is it too late to start a GoFundMe for our van exploding and all our possessions burning in 2003?
I feel like I saw a
They didn't have that then.
I feel like I saw a GoFundMe for a van recently, which kind of surprised me. And I can't remember which band it was.
But I mean, I lost a lot of stuff in that. I lost 600 CDs, my leather jacket, my cell phone. I lost my Rock and Roll Hall of Fame guitar, my amps. The only thing that survived was the upright bass. I don't understand that at all. That survived. Our trailer was made of wood, so that didn't go good. We didn't know where we were on the highway. This was like before we had GPS on our phones, so like we were on our way to Stevens Point to a show. And so we called the wrong county fire department at first, and so they just couldn't find us, and everything's burnt. It was the January, it was cold, so we had to stay close to the van so we could stay warm. But like the gas tank didn't explode, but the tires were exploding. So there were 4 major explosions, or they felt major.
So you were driving, and then all of a sudden you just realized
we had 2 cars. I bought the van earlier that day. And the guy behind us called us and said we were smoking, so we pulled over on 10. Somewhere between here and Stevens Point, and I got out and I went to the back because there was a fire extinguisher back there for some reason. And where we were sitting minutes ago, flames were shooting out of the air vents. And so I could have grabbed the guitar, and that's I can still think about it that day. My guitar was just in the back. I could have just grabbed it, but I was like, "Run for your lives!" You know, like we got to go like this because in movies, like if a car's on fire for 2 seconds, then you know. But gas tanks are actually surprisingly designed not to explode. So. But it was, I wish I'd grabbed that guitar. Oh my gosh. It was such a good guitar.
You didn't like go onto MySpace and...
I don't even know if MySpace was rocking back then. I mean, I think it was. But no, they didn't have... But really, I would love to get that money back now if anybody's interested.
So all the equipment inside that was lost. You just had everything. Nothing was savable.
The guy that owned the upright bass had home insurance or something. And so he got money, even though his instrument was the only one that didn't.
Were you late to the show?
We didn't make the show. And when we called them, we're still late. We were supposed to play the Browns. And I remember calling them and telling them we were on fire and stuff. And they were just giggling and thinking we were messing around. And like, okay, well, we're going to the emergency room now or something. Like, I didn't think it really they didn't, nobody cared. I don't think that I'm very popular then or now,
So the Hamburgers ended up not playing anymore. And then what did you do after the Hamburgers?
We had a band called Obvious Manhands.
With Amos, right?
Yeah, it's almost exactly what Car City is now, actually. And that song you played right before, Don't Give Up on Love, that was actually Obvious Manhand's song.
Oh, that's a great track.
Yeah, Jason can write some songs, man. It was me and Tim Schweig. It started with Brian Giebisch again, but he didn't show up to the studio. So then Justin Perkins played bass on the record that we never released. Amos on drums, and then we brought in Tim Schweiger and me and Jason. So it's like almost the exact same lineup, except it's Bill now on bass instead of Tim. But it wasn't like we didn't design either of those to be like that. But we just, I don't know, back then we were I was really into like the downstroke pop punk stuff. So we tried to do that, and it was fun. We had like shows where Ben played a couple times with us live, where we'd have like 2 full stacks and a half stack in like this church, and a bass, right? And we were just so loud that the PA couldn't hear our vote. But we do like 4-part harmonies, but nobody could hear them like that. And that band lasted for like 3 years because we just, all of us, like the Obsoletes had stopped playing, Hamburgers stopped playing, 88 Miles Per Hour stopped playing, Social Classics was kind of winding down, Tenement was just starting. So we mostly, like Jason had his first kid, and we mostly, like the other 3 of us would just sit in my basement and play yesterday's kid songs, which was so much fun. Just me, Amos, and Tim. And then Tim kind of poached Amos and started the Tim Schweiger and the Middlemen, and the rest is history, baby. But that's showbiz.
So at this point, are you feeling sort of left behind?
Yeah, I'm still mad at those guys. No, actually what happened was I moved to Cecil, me and my partner at the time, and so I just kind of stopped playing music and got really into gambling, like online gambling, and that took up a lot of my time.
Did you make any money?
For a while. Nobody is upset when you make the money gambling. It's when you lose that people are like, And then I was like, I should stop.
Well, then you ended up coming back to the area.
Yeah, we moved back to Kaukauna, just hitting all the big names here in 2010. And then I kind of kicked around some band ideas, like Steve Cheese, the original drummer from Screeching Weasel, came to my house and played drums with me a couple times, and it didn't go great. And I was going to do something with this guy, James Barnes, who's also a class of 99 Nina guy, but he developed a distaste for me. And he was really good at Madden. That was frustrating. Because, we'd play some Madden and he'd just destroy me. Like, I thought I was good. You play the computer, you think you're doing good, and then you play a person, and you're like,
Was he going for bombs every time?
He just knew how to do the stuff better, I don't know. I don't know how else to describe it. I could beat the game on hard mode, but I couldn't beat him. But then, I just kind of... That's when I started doing acoustic stuff. I kind of recorded some stuff in Cecil when my marriage was falling apart with just like GarageBand.
Was that your first time dabbling with like home recordings?
Yeah, I mean, I'd done demos a lot with different things, but that was the first time where I tried mixing and, putting in different kind of production stuff. And it didn't really go anywhere. I remember I played a couple shows to like 4 or 5 people, just thinking, wow, I blew it, like I had something, and then I just kind of fallen out. And I played at like the Crunchy Frog a few times, New Moon, Blue Moon, just Kiwani. We went out and played at Wallace's Italian restaurant a couple times, like just nothing important at all. And from like 2007 to 2013, I was pretty inactive. It's a long time. It's like, I don't really remember what happened during that time.
So when did things all of a sudden get kicked off again for you?
So 2014, I got offered to open a show for Joey Cape from Lagwagon, and Chris Cresswell from the Flatliners, and Brian Wallstrom, Scorpios. And I thought that'd be really fun. And so I said yes. And I played a show 3 days before that at the New Moon, actually, in Oshkosh. And I remember that might have been the first time I ever played with Todd, actually. World famous musician, Texas Butter Todd. And there were 9 people there, and 3 of them in the front row, 2 of them were wearing headphones, actively not listening to me. And that was it. I quit. I was just like, I'm done. I'm going to play this last show with Joey. It'll be fun. Nothing, no pressure. I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm just going to stop. Because it was just a failure, like it was such a failure. It was all over.
It's really depressing, Walt.
Yeah. So then I went there, and I didn't even know Joey owned a label or anything. Like I just was like, oh, I like your band. And so I just went down in the basement, started talking to him. He was working on taxes or something, and he was frustrated, but he was really nice to me.
This was before your set?
Before the set. And then I was doing my sound check, and I played a song, and he comes running up the stairs, and he's just like, did you write that? And I didn't. It was a cover song. And I play so few cover songs, but it was like just a good sound check song because it hit all the notes on the guitar and it had different vocal ranges. So it's like, so I was like, oh, no. And he was also like, oh, no. But then he came and he watched my set, like kind of from the back. And he was laughing at my self-deprecation jokes and stuff. And since touring with him multiple times, he doesn't really watch the opener. It's usually when he eats his dinner. Like, it's not out of like disrespect or anything. It's just like you do your sound check and then you have a little time to eat, and then you go back and you do preparation, vocal warm-ups, and then you play. So it was special that he watched that, and all the guys seemed to like me, and so we had a good time. And he asked for my little demo I had done. My sister had me write a song for their wedding and paid for me to record it so they could have a recording of it. I was so broke back then; it was the only way I could even do that, you know. And so I gave him that with like 3 or 4 other songs on it, and then they went from Green Bay to Winnipeg, and then did a Canadian stretch, and then came back to Seattle. And he'd given me his phone number because Lagwagon was coming back in like 5 weeks, and he was like, you'll be my Green Bay friend and come hang out at the show. And so when they called me 6 days later, I thought it was a pocket dial. I just got home from work. Another Madden reference. I was playing Madden in my boxers. I was just sitting on my bed. And I never would have answered if I knew it was a real call, but I'm just like, oh, let's hear what it's like in the van. And he was just like, Walt? And I'm like, oh, shit. I think that was the first thing I said to him. Sorry. He's like, yeah, we've been listening to your record. Apparently what they were doing at the time was everybody got to pick a record and you'd rotate. And Chris Cresswell kept picking mine and just listening to it over and over and over again. It's only like 5 songs, and it was terrible probably. I don't know. I probably have it somewhere.
Was this what you did on GarageBand?
No, this was like the Sisters song and a few other songs that I recorded with Tim Schweiger in Milwaukee just on his computer sort of thing. And he's like, yeah, we want to know if you want to come out and make a 1-week record. And I was like, I don't know what to say. And he's like, well, you should say yes. I was like, okay. So they were just at a gas station in Seattle or something, and that, that changed everything for me. Now I'm one of the most famous people in the whole world.
When you said yes to that, it must have been exciting, but also your guts must have been twisting at the same time because you didn't have a lot of material written to record it.
Well, I had a lot of stuff. I just didn't have anything recorded because I didn't have any money. I just kind of recorded the song for my sister, which is on the first one. It's called 1,000 Roads.
Does she get a cut of all your sales now?
Yeah, she's making $2-3 a year. Just raking it in. That's probably a high estimate. I ran. My ex-partner lived 2 houses down at the time, and I ran to her house with like a bottle of whiskey or something. She wasn't home. Called my mom. She wasn't answering. My dad was at work. I had no one to tell, and we had to keep it secret for a while, like months, where I could only kind of just cryptically talk about it.
So he said, I don't want you to get this out until...
Yeah, I don't know what the deal was, because then one day he just posted a picture of us, and he's like, this is the next record. And I'm just like, well, okay, can I share this now? Because it's out there,
Well, so for people that are listening or watching that might not know what 1 week records is, could you explain sort of the concept of it?
Yeah, it's Joey Cape and from Lagwagon, and he had a home studio. I think he still does have a home studio, but now I think he records at a different place sometimes. But basically, you spend 1 week recording a full record, and it doesn't give you a lot of time for overproduction and stuff. So it's very stripped down tracks, usually an acoustic guitar or piano, vocals, maybe a few harmonies, maybe a few leads, but nothing fancy. So it's like a really stripped down, like the opposite of an overproduced record, like Car City was. So, and you usually get to do 1, and I've done 2, 3 if you count the one I did. I did half of his record as well. The 1 week he did, I did harmonies and played guitar on that as well. So, but it can be a really stressful environment. I mean, it's like a room like a fourth of the size of the one we're in at first. Now, the last one I did a third of it at Asher's studio in LA, which is Katy Perry's old house. So it's much bigger. Like, they built the studio in the shoe closet, her old shoe closet, and it's enormous,
So recording that first album, did you feel sort of pressure, like this has got to be good because I want to... Sometimes you don't get a second chance.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. The first several years of my, whatever phase of this career you want to call it, was me wondering, and kind of treating it like a fantasy camp. Like, I was 33 or something, 32, 33. So like, I felt like I had already kind of passed my... Most people that get signed and get to do these national tours, it's like, you're like 19, 20, 21. Like, for me, it was like, I felt like I could really appreciate it more. And everything felt like extra. Like, okay, I'm going to do this tour, and this is probably it. but wow, I got to do this tour, and then, I'm getting another one, I'm going to Europe. Wow, I'm going to Europe. Like, and now I've been to Europe, I think 4 or 5 times. Like, it's crazy. And every time this happens, I think, well, this is probably it. But wow, this was really cool. Like that I get to do this and not have to do a regular job, because I don't like regular jobs. I don't even like this job that much, but it's better for me,
The first time you toured internationally from 1 Week Records, first show in England, let's say.
Well, first we went to Canada. That was exciting for me at the time. But yeah, okay, let's go to Scotland.
Let's do Canada.
Yeah, okay.
So you're doing these tours with Joey's along, right?
Yeah, Joey's the headliner. And I played in Joey's band as well. So I would play. The first tour, I was actually direct support. So it would be like local. Brian would play, then I would play, then me and Joey would play. I played in about half his set, including the closers and stuff. So I was up there in front of big crowds every night, and it was really fun. I've never had like stage fright for big crowds. It's little crowds that scare me. If I was singing to you, I'd be nervous, just you. But if there were 30,000 people in here, well, not that I ever played to 30,000. I guess most I played for was like 2,500 or something, but it doesn't scare me at all. It's just a sea of people. You don't think about it,
Was it a different ball game as far as you're playing in front of people that you're doing a show in the Fox Cities? It's people or people that.
Well, people don't like me here, but people like me elsewhere. So it was fun. Yeah.
So let's touch on that comment. So you said people don't like you. Like what?
It's a joke. I don't know. I just assume people don't like me. I don't draw well here. Like people don't come to my shows really here. I mean they do sometimes, but there's no predicting it. I think people think of me more as the animal person here, like animal rights, raise money for animals. Like nobody knows the words of my songs. I'm not trying to hate on where I live or anything. I just don't think I've done whatever it takes to be a fixture of the community, other than everybody knows me because I have blue hair and look like a cartoon.
Do you think like some of that feeling might come from jealousy?
Of who?
From like the scene, or like
who would I be jealous of?
No, not you. I'm talking to
them?
people. Yeah, them.
Why would anybody be jealous of me?
Well, you're on 1 Week Records. You're touring internationally.
Nobody cares. People might care about the touring thing, but nobody cares. No. I just I don't know. I never felt like I'm sure there's people out there like that. Whatever. I shouldn't have said anything.
Well, so you're touring internationally. You're playing in front of people that
time for a pickle.
You're playing in front of people that don't normally see you, and like that. Yeah. You're being like the reception is really good as well. Like people are buying your album.
They knew the words before I got there.
That's got to be a cool feeling.
It's so cool. This pickle's really good. You want one?
I'll take one.
Yeah. Get in on this. There you go. Make sure you chew on it close to the microphone. You want to stay 6 inches. The question-dodging pickle.
So, did you have a favorite memory of your first international tour?
Yes.
Are you able to tell us what it is?
I don't know if my mom knows this story. Sorry, this is a bad time for a pickle. Most people bring pickles, right?
Yeah, it really is.
Keep all this in. This is gold. I got pickle brine on your nice table. All right, I don't think I've told this story like in a public setting yet, but people know about it. But yeah, the first time I played Montreal, we actually played outside Montreal in Laval, and we played. It was the night of an eclipse. So part of the show is just a beautiful memory for a lot of people. There were 500 people there. I don't know if this place was a strip club, but it had strip poles. There were strippers there. The floors were as sticky as a floor I've ever touched.
Must have dropped a lot of drinks.
Yeah, I mean it's like a roadhouse. Like it was just like, I don't know. I think it had something to do with biker gangs. I don't want to get in any kind of trouble with my friends up in Canada, but it was a wild, wild night. And I remember, sorry, Mom, it was the first time I signed boobs, like just autographed straight across, like just sorry to all the children out there. And at one point, I believe during Joey's set, he said he looked over and I was on stage making out with 2 girls, like at the same time, like both named Amy. They may or may not have been wearing shirts. I don't know. And this is during Joey's set. Like, and you don't want to mess around during his set. Like, that's not a thing. But we were just all going for it that night. Like, it was just like, it was, Motley Crue in the 90s. Like, it was just like, I don't know what happened. A lot of it was explained to me later. Nobody did anything really bad or anything, but I remember the backstage area had a lot of people that were like didn't look like they were there for the show. Like real mean looking, I don't want to say mob types, but like it was like some other stuff was going on there. So that was probably from the first tour, the one that sticks out the most. Plus a beautiful crowd. Like Joey is so popular in Montreal. Like if you go back and watch Bret Hart's famous Montreal Screwjob match, there's a guy with a lagwagon shirt as they're fighting the crowd, just being like, yeah, showing the shirt instead of the guys fighting right next to him.
Was it kind of weird for you to be kind of on the Joey's inner circle on that tour? So, I mean, did you see a lot of people like trying to work their way back to Joey, and was it kind of strange to...
Some of that happens, but Joey keeps it pretty close. Like he has, the best thing that came out of me and Joey is our friendship for sure. And the deviation of that I love is meeting all of his friends. I mean, I met Frank Turner, and not just name droppable people like that, but like in each town he has people that he's known for years that are his, he called me his Green Bay person. He has people in all these cities that are just like amazing humans that he's built this relationship with over the 25 years or whatever at the time that he was touring. And so you get to meet these people too, and they're like the mayors of the city as far as music goes. And so those are usually the people we spend time with. I mean, there would be people that wanted autographs and stuff from him and stuff like that in some of the bigger shows in some of the bigger cities, but it was nothing like over the top. We didn't really have to like... The only thing you have to worry about with the Joey Cape show is how many people want to have a shot of Jameson with him. and throw a cigarette at him when he said, "Who's got a smoke for the caper?" in that one song. Like the stage just gets littered with cigarettes because people are waiting for that moment. But like... It's got to be hard for him because after the show, this happens when I played with Tim from Rise Against or Laura Jane Grace too. Like people, like the whole crowd stays to meet them because they're such nice people. Like with Tim and Laura, like they'll meet every single person and have a real conversation with them until people like drag them off, and it just looks exhausting. So some of that happened, but then with Joey, there's always a shot of Jameson involved as well. They want to. He's not always doing it, but like that's just a thing. So like that's really the only thing that he had to watch out for was like how many of those can a human do. He's a bit of a superhero, but a human can only take so much. It's not like he's going up and getting all these shots. They just keep showing up with them, and so sometimes he'll pass them off, and like he handles it really well. But this is like back to back to back. So that's really the only kind of that kind of thing. I'm alienating all my friends here in this one. This is good.
So the Wisconsin Dells, like, when did you lock yourself into the hotel at Wisconsin Dells to write?
Oh.
Was that the first album or was that the second
Research.
album?
That's the second record.
And there must have been pressure to get stuff written for that second record.
Yeah, but there was no timeline. It was more just like, so I kind of talked to Joey about what do we do next. Like I'd gone with him on the U.S. tour, and then he's like, there's no rules. Come do another record. Like, I'm a record label. We'll do another record. But we didn't have any rush because the first one was already out there. So I went 3 times to stay at this place called Christmas Mountain, which is like a resort sort of thing. But it was in between seasons. It was like too cold to ski, but not nearly warm enough to golf. Like it was like 30 below zero Fahrenheit for all my international friends, which is like 300 degrees below 0 Celsius. But it was cold, and like my car didn't start some of the days. But I would just there was nothing to do there. Like they barely had basic cable. They had like a fridge and a nice kitchen, and it was like one of those like live-in condo kind of fully. A couple bedrooms, but there was no, and the Wisconsin Dells is empty too because it's not tourism season. So it was like, I don't know, like it was just me. You kind of go a little Shining style crazy over there. But then I ended up over 3 trips writing, 10 or 12 new songs, and he picked some of them and we used them, and a couple that we didn't record from the first record, and including a song called Wisconsin Dells.
And then you went to back to the same studio? You did the first one at Katy Perry's old house?
No, the first one was at Joey's. The second one was mostly at Joey's, but it's funny. We did it in about a week, but we did it over 3 years because it was like the end of 1 year and the beginning of the third year. So it was like 16, 17-month period between the first date and the last date. And the third thing, we got to Asher's studio, and it just sounded so good that we ended up adding, he has these like early 1900s Gibson acoustic guitars and Martin acoustic guitars that sounded so good So we added another track with those and fixed up some vocals and did stuff like that. And then ended up the new record that I'm working on with Neil Hennessy from Lawrence Arms, and now he's in Joyce Manor and Sparta, and like a whole bunch. He's always on tour. I recorded fully at Asher's studio, and Asher Simon, he's playing drums. He's from the Santa Barbara area. Great drummer, and Neil, of course, is a great drummer too. But he plays bass on the record, and it's like it's a little bit different than the first two records. It's more of a rock and roll record, so I'm looking forward to that. It's taking forever because I'm picky and Neil's always on tour. So it's like you have like you get a mix and then you have notes, and then it'll be 3 months before any of us can really get to it. So it's just been and we tried starting this during pandemic lockdown and stuff, so it was tricky, like keeping everybody safe and
well,
so
you were kind of hit hard during the pandemic because unlike some musicians, this is your only gig, right? So
and I at the time, and kind of still, lived just with my dad, who's very high risk. So I couldn't even really go get a regular job without putting him in danger, which some people didn't really buy into. And so I got my fair share of abuse. I tried doing online shows, which at first, when everybody's getting the free money, the stimulus, those stimmies, remember the stimmies?
Yeah, I remember the stimmies.
Oh man, you should try this cheese. That didn't. That washed out. And then it still wasn't safe, I thought, when people started doing stuff. So yeah, there was some tough financial years. It's actually harder now, believe it or not. Oh, he's going with the hot sauce and the cheese.
I gotta try this.
Wow.
I didn't put a whole lot on there, Walt, just a little bit.
It's not that hot. It's like a Tabasco hot.
It's hot.
It's a little hot.
Yeah. What were we talking about?
You said you were going to move to Cleveland.
Oh, yeah. So I decided not to.
Sorry.
Let's talk briefly about Texas Butter Todd.
Yes.
So
this is why I'm here.
Todd's in Traveling Suitcase now. He's got the
He's
North
in
Wind
like
and the
6 more
Sun.
bands too. Yeah. North and Sun, and then he's in. I think he plays with those Oshkosh, the Google Dolls looking guys, or the Horse Green. He's in that too, I think. And then if he has time, he still plays with us in the Bad Puns.
Are you upset that now he can't?
No,
dedicate?
I'm thrilled. No, all I wanted for Todd since I met him was for more people to appreciate Todd, because from the first show I saw him play with me at that New Moon, neither of us were great that night. The next one I played, I was blown away. And I was just like, why isn't he, it confounds me what people around here care about when Todd is out there writing original music that has soul. It's interesting. His stage presence is terrible, just like me. Like, he just sits there and makes fun of himself, but like worse, like you were saying in the break, like he's actually more self-deprecating than me, which I just love. But like he's born to perform, and like I'm so happy he's in the Suitcase because I know how much that band means to him. It must be a little overwhelming to play in a band that was your favorite band for a long time. I love Todd, and he's done so much for me doing support. Like, he played almost all of those online shows I did during the pandemic. He was one of the only friends I got to see back then. And now I never see him because he's just so damn popular. So it's really cool. Like, if I had anything that I contributed to society, it was getting more people to at least pay attention to him. Not that I deserve any credit for it, but I am really happy. And the fact that he even fits us in at all, because, my band just annoys him more than anything else, because we kind of like, when we do this stuff, it's just for like festivals and, the rare occasion where we need a full band because they want to give us more money, but we got to have more, blah, blah, blah. So we just play a bunch of all of our songs, and we take Todd's songs and change them up, and he hates it. So it's like, I'm like, hey, let's do this instead. And he's like, no, but let's not. And it's like, we already are. So, and then we just start playing, and you can just see him fuming, and what a good guy.
Well, I think if anything, like, that's awesome. You met, another person through what you do, and then you sort of, I would say, like, kind of maybe gave him the confidence to do stuff like the Traveling Suitcase. And
I don't know if I gave him any. I don't want to take any credit for the success. I just hope that more people listen to him, because he was doing it from the beginning. Whatever he was doing it. And his he didn't learn anything from me other than to talk bad about himself and maybe how to squeeze an extra $50 out of a promoter. But like, He is a self-made man, like for sure. And that guy can play a guitar, and he can sing, and he writes good stuff. Todd for president.
Now, Walt, back in the day, you were doing your own record label called My Brother Stole My Records.
Yeah.
And I know that was
Wildly successful.
But how many releases did he have on the label?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, the whole thing was, so John Wallace owned a print shop. So we thought we'd start a label because he could make T-shirts for bands cheap, and we could put out their records cheap. And basically it was like, we'd make $2 off of whatever they did. So if they sold a shirt, we made $2. If they sold a record, we made $2. So it was just like, we, quote unquote, signed, with no obligation. I think there were a few contracts, but like Social Distortion, which was one of Amos's first bands, the Rumors from Green Bay, I think we did a split with that. Nobody's Housewives, Offend Your Friends out of Fond du Lac. We tried to get this band Pudge, but they didn't want anything to do with us. But honestly, like, we were just looking for bands that drew well and were young. I mean, like, we were young too. We weren't like grooming or anything. Like, Wallace was probably 19 or something. And we were just looking for bands that brought people to shows, and then we could help them by making them merch for cheap, and everybody paid. Like, it was a good deal for everybody. And we did a comp, which was probably our greatest contribution to the world, because you'd go to those towns then, and everybody would know those two songs that you had on there, and it was kind of cool. Comps were everything to me as a kid. That's how I learned about almost all the bands. Do
you feel the comps have kind of lost their power since
Spotify?
Yeah.
But it is funny, like, there was that My First Band podcast that Milwaukee Record did, and I couldn't believe how many times my name came up when I would listen to somebody that I knew, and they would talk about how much that helped with the scene, when at the time, I don't think I was really trying to do anything special. I was just, me and John were just trying to make it easier for bands to do the stuff, and we were kind of doing our own thing. Like, we hadn't really made it in with the Green Bay crowd yet, so we were kind of doing our own shows, lots of Fox Valley shows and stuff like that I was putting on. It was just a way to do it, and so I ended up unintentionally giving a lot of bands, opportunities to play, because I just wanted to play. So it's a very selfish endeavor.
Well, how did it stop? Like, what made you stop?
I think I gave Wallace, like, I think we had like $300 in the pool, and I gave him $150, and we're still going. We just don't do anything ever. It's been like 15 years. I think the first one of the records, maybe even Car City. I don't know about Car City, but one of the one weeks I have on the vinyl, it's got the My Brother Stole My Records logo on it. And it doesn't mean anything, but I thought that was a cool name too. I drew the logo. It's just a kid chasing another kid with a record.
Well, speaking of not doing anything, your website hasn't been really updated.
I was thinking about that today. I was like, oh man, like I just stopped. One day I just stopped.
I mean, so you were updating the website by yourself.
And I've toured so much since then. I have so many cool shows to like brag about. I've been to Europe like 3 times since that happened. Well, Canada like 5, and like nothing. I've done nothing. I still pay for it every 6 months. That's it.
You go there now, and it looks like you're touring Canada again in the
2019.
Fall. Yeah, it keeps looping.
Oh no. Yeah, I get like 7 visitors a month.
Do you feel like, we're talking about comps kind of not being effective, do you feel like websites aren't really effective anymore either?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like you basically do all your promoting on Facebook and Instagram, right? And Twitter, I guess. But I don't really use Twitter that much.
Yeah, because if you go to a website, it's probably not updated daily like Facebook.
Well, it's not like it used to be. I mean, a lot of bands still use Band. I never had a Bandcamp. I suppose I could get on that. I'm still pretty early in my career, right? But yeah, I don't know. I got really lazy with that website. I just one day I just stopped, and then I got a little behind, and it was nice because I could use it with my taxes at the end of the year, like going over all the shows I did and how much I got paid. And now it's just like, oh shit.
You play a lot of shows. I mean, even the the archived ones you have on there, and that's.
I was thinking I probably played thousands of shows in my life. I don't know how many. I have no idea, but I do in good years over 100 a year. So
your live playing is so clean. Like I
what? No, you haven't been listening.
Well, no, I mean,
you've been hitting the sauce.
The sound is clean. I saw you play at the Northwest something punk show for bands that couldn't play the Madison something, and Aaron.
You were there for that?
Yeah, and so I saw some people play, and the sound was left something to be desired. And then you came up with your setup, and it sounded like crisp.
Well, here's what happened there. I don't know about that specific show. What a weird reference. There were like 8 people there. And unnamed person spilled Mountain Dew on my records that day. I don't know if you'd be able to guess, but then there was a
Is that initial?
that anyway. So Code Zero Radio, it's WCZR.
Well, just as far as that's probably a result from playing so many shows.
Well, some of it is maybe, but like I think I think I'm a good singer. I think that is what sets me apart from other musicians. If I can be at all braggadocious, is that a word?
It is now.
I think I can sing really well, and I think that sets me apart from a lot of people, at least in this scene. But the guitar stuff, I have a nice guitar now. I used to play a plastic guitar, and then I started touring, and I had to borrow guitars because the one I was playing wasn't up to par with every other sound. So we finally got a nice Martin. And Joey is sponsored by LR Bags, which is a really nice company that has a place in Nashville. And we did a session there, and you can still find that on YouTube. And in that session at the end, I was just like, yeah, I really like this DI box, which has got a little preamp in it and little mixing capabilities. And they're like, yeah, we're supposed to give you guys whatever you want. I'm like, well, I want one of those. And I got the last one. And then they also gave me this Anthem pickup, which is like half microphone and half guitar pickup. So you kind of mix it how you want, like which gets more. And so it should sound, if you do it right, like you're just listening to an acoustic guitar. It's just louder. So I think that goes a long way in like how that sounds. But I don't know. Amos, I don't know if you know this guy named Amos Pitch. He's
heard of him.
He's a really well-liked musician in the Fox Cities. Everybody loves Amos.
Solid album called Acid Rain.
Yeah, right? He just threw that together because he's locked. What an ass. Well, I'm looking at him right now. He's just on the wall here.
So you successfully kind of jumped away from the good sound, but
he. What was I going to say about him? Oh, he said something. Oh, he thinks I'm a very sloppy guitar player, and I tend to think that he's probably right because he listens. You know, I talk, he listens. Like I'm always talking, and he's always listening.
He's got those producer ears, though. Like,
you know, we did produce. I'm in the band, so it's kind of hard to be happy about it and not sound like a butthead. But like when we produced the Car City record together, that's some of the most fun either of us has ever had. Like we would get together like 4 times a week for hours at a time, and it was mostly laughing. You know, just like taking the bad takes and spending more time on those than the good, and then sending Jason like some fake mixes and stuff. But but I'm really proud of what we did. It was the first time I ever got to just be a producer, right? Like otherwise it's just I'm playing rhythm guitar and some percussion and doing a lot of harmonies. But a lot of that I was writing.
Great.
Yeah, that was really fun with him because he's really good at that too. But we have different vocal ranges, and so we kind of just we excelled at that. I thought that was what I was. That record's really fun based on how much fun we had making it. I think
that was sort of the super group that was created, and then
hell yeah.
How did the cover? Who did the cover? For
Amos. That's all Amos, man.
Cool.
Him and his roommate, I think, did the claymation, and then he got a nice camera and he put together the set. And I was so happy that I'm holding a beer in it. I don't own a pink shirt. I don't know where that came from, but I had my blue hair and my beer, and that made me. I just love that. I still have the claymation figures somewhere. Sometimes, like right after we released the record, I was putting them in different places and taking little shots. I don't know.
So when is the next Car City album coming out?
Well, we have been working on one for about 5 years now. I don't know if it's 5, but it's a lot. Ever since the last one, we started recording right away.
Is it along the same kind of lines as the first album?
I would say to me, and I think they'd all disagree with me, but this would be our Pinkerton to our Blue album. So it's, except for not as good, or even as close as good. But like this was like, the Blue album is a very polished sound, and I think this one is getting a little more live-y sound. But I mean, we the last like 4 times we've got together at least, we've done the exact same thing. We get together, we listen to tracks, everybody goes, this is pretty good, and then we go out to dinner. So, because Jason pays for all the meals, it's really nice. So, and we do that like every 6 months. Like it's going nowhere. I think Bill is like a famous roadie or guitar tech or something now, and Amos is opening a record store. And so he works like 3 jobs right now, in dusk. And
so life is getting in the way.
Yeah, I mean, like we would all like to get together, but Jason has a family. You know, that's a lot. Like to ask anybody to do anything outside of just being a dad is hard. So that's the thing about the bad puns is like, other than me and Todd, Mike and Aaron and Jason, they all have families. So it's like we're trying to schedule a practice in the next month and a half before our first show, and it's just like every week is just.
You were one of the first people to play at the Refuge when it.
Yeah, I think I played the first show ever there. It wasn't even called the Refuge yet. How do you know that?
I remember. I think I talked to you about it like 5 or 6 years or something. I don't know ago. But so what was it then?
Bloth put that together. I don't think he's called Bloth anymore. How do you pronounce it?
Arkim, Bloth Arkim or something?
Yeah, he did that. It was called the Monastery, and he spelled it wrong. I don't know if he did it on purpose. Yeah, that was right after I got back from recording my first record, and the picture's on the back of the CD anyway. The re-release of that record, we used a different picture because it was such a blurry picture.
Yeah, it was like really pixelated.
Yeah. Bernardo Cano might have taken that one. The verified kid from Facebook. He's got the blue dot. You know who he is.
I don't.
He's my hairstylist's partner.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
plays like every instrument. You gotta know who Bernardo is. Plays like harmonica and like the hand drums. He's verified. How do you not know who he is?
I'll look him up after this. But so have you played at the Refuge?
I think he took that picture. I don't know.
Did you play at the Refuge after that? Or that was the only time you played at
like
that
after
building?
Chisel took over?
Yeah.
Corey, how are you? I haven't seen him since Mark's Eastside. What do you think he's doing right now?
I bet you he's working on a movie.
Oh, yeah, he's all over the world now, isn't he? He's probably sleeping because he's probably in Europe. No, Argentina, wasn't it? That's south of us. He's up. Hey, Corey. Our birthdays are almost the same, you know.
He definitely just tunes into Code Zero Radio every day and leaves it right there.
That's what I would do if I was Corey Chisel.
So, okay, moving on.
What was the question, though? I forgot. Did I ever play the Refuge?
Played at the Refuge after that?
I don't think I did. I don't think I did. I've been there for some stuff, but I don't think I ever played there again. No, I did one time for a sex thing. It was like the Chamber of Commerce did a thing called Sex. I'm serious. It was just called Sex or something. And I played, yeah.
How did that go over?
It was super awkward. Because after I talked, it turned out to be more of like first of all, we were too loud. We didn't realize we weren't there to perform. We were there to be background music, right? So like it's in the chapel part, so it was loud, you know. And they just kept telling us to turn down. And then it turned out to be more of a share your horrible stories kind of thing.
Was it like the Story Catchers?
I don't know. They did like a week back in the day. I don't know. I just remember being surprised that they didn't have money for us. Like they told us, and they're like, "We'll mail it to you next week." And it's like, "Oh, I'm very poor. I was hoping usually when you leave the venue, they hand you money. That's my favorite part of any show, because then I can go buy stuff. You know."
Do you get that a lot, where all of a sudden you'll do the service of playing music and people say like, "Oh."
Well, no, I have a booking agent now, so that helps.
Oh, nice. That probably takes some of the stress off.
So much. It's great. God, I don't know what I would do without Steve. Like merit-based booking management, shout out. Love you guys. Thank you for keeping me alive and giving me a job. But he when people try to bullshit,
That's awesome.
Because he's been doing it for 30 years, so he has relationships with everybody. So even if, like, say, we play a show, we did a show. I mean, sometimes weird things happen. Like the hometown team is in the playoffs, and the guy that helped build the venue died unexpectedly the week before. That happened recently. Good friend of mine. Tragic. So we fly all the way to the city, and the vibe is just not great, and there's not a lot of people there because of all those factors. And it's like, but also he's bringing huge shows there all the time. So just because our show didn't go well because of all these weird things going on, he's also going to bring him shows that do really, really well. And it evens out. So having somebody like that on my back, I think that's what separates me from a lot of the really hardworking people that do what I do, is that people that do what I do that don't make a ton of money but still have somebody that will book for them, it's really hard to find. Because, the booking agents get about 10%, right? So even if I'm making $500, that's only $50. If you make $100, it's $10.
Put a band in there and you're making even less.
Yeah, so it's hard for them to make money off of me specifically. But I'm very lucky in that regard.
So let's talk Mile Music. Are you playing Mile 10?
I am. Yeah, they just announced me on Tuesday.
Awesome, congrats. And
thanks.
You didn't play Mile 9, right?
No, I was in Europe.
Okay, that's a good excuse.
Yeah, it was a pretty good excuse, I thought. I was playing really good shows. I played at Festival of the Descendants, man.
Yeah, it is cool. And I do remember now, because they still were doing which we need to talk about as well, your foundation. They still were collecting money for the foundation during the mile that you weren't in attendance.
They did. They did a thing at the chapel. I thought that was very, very kind.
Did they raise as much money as if you were there?
No, but it was still more than we could have possibly expected. The past couple of years it had been like $6,000-$7,000 throughout the festival. This year was last year was just a chapel, which we've done pretty much every year, except for the first couple. And I wasn't even there, and it still raised like $700 or $800. I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, our foundation is small, so when we get any kind of money, it goes a long way. So,
what started your love for cats, and then cats and dogs, and what made you decide to?
And pigs. We helped sponsor a pig sanctuary now.
And what kind of drove you to make a nonprofit out of it?
These are good pickles. Sorry. Doesn't matter if this runs over, does it?
No.
Awesome. Let's try for a couple more hours. I did animal rescue because my partner started doing it. And I'm sorry, this is a long pickle. So good though. Guys, Mount Olive, Simply Pickles, select ingredient, kosher baby dills, cucumber and vine. Call me up. Sign the check. Let's do this. Come on, Mount Olive. And Plockman's mustard. I love you too. Hell yeah. Animal rescue is a very introverted line of work. Almost all the people I know that do that do not want attention. That's part of the reason I think that they love animals. Okay. But I have a big mouth. So like when I play shows, I could raise money for local rescues. And it actually started pretty organically at Mile of Music. Played my first show at Spats that year. And I put out my guitar case and I said, let's try to raise $250 this weekend. $25 a show. I had 10 shows, which is crazy because like this year I have 2. I'm just like, what am I going to do with my life? 2 shows. It's so easy, And and then we got almost that on the first show and ended up raising like $1,000 that week, including a good amount in the chapel that year. That was the first time we tried that. I kind of just asked Corey, I'm like, hey, we've been doing this all weekend. Do you think we could just put it out? And this really cool thing happened where people came down the aisle at the chapel and were throwing money from the second level. And there was a $100 bill in there. I was crying at the end of it. And then the next year it was bigger, and next year was bigger. And then we started doing some other fundraisers for when natural disasters happen. Like there was a tornado or a hurricane actually in Louisiana and Texas. We wanted to send some money down to the rescues because a lot of people have to make that tough call of leaving quickly and not being able to bring their pet, and so the rescues were overwhelmed. And we started getting checks that were a little too big, like the people wanted to be able to claim them on their taxes, and they had to write them to me personally, and then I also had to count that as income. So we realized the prudent thing would be to start an actual nonprofit, and so we went to a lawyer friend and raised the money to do that. It's like, even with a nice lawyer, it was still like $2,000 to found the thing. And then ever since then, we just kind of try to do what we can. Up till this year, our biggest thing was always Mile Music. This year, they're going in a different direction, so we're not able to raise money at the festival. So we're going to have to figure that out. But if anybody wants to donate, one of the things, you can go to the Walt Hamburger Foundation Facebook page is where our PayPal thing is. Recently, we've kind of focused on 2 things, if it's okay if I keep talking about this. One is, of course, our Willow Fund, which is basically, there's a mural at McFleshman's that you can see that is Willow the Cat that Chad Brady did. Oh, I thought maybe Herm was here. Oh, Hermie. We raise money and then we put aside some for humans that have pets that have emergencies and have to make the life or death call, and maybe if they could get the surgery, they might survive. And we've helped a lot of people locally with that, and that's very important to me. And then the other thing we started doing is there's this pig sanctuary in Kaukauna, which is so cool, called Saving Snouts, and we've been sponsoring a few of their pigs. And pigs, if you don't know, are more intelligent than dogs. Then these are pigs that had some tragic stories, and there's this person named TJ and a few other dedicated volunteers and employees there that they have like 42 pigs. And a lot of them, were like fell off a truck, or were like they were supposed to do an organ transplant. It didn't work out, and these pigs were left for dead, and they saved them. And so we sponsor 3 of them right now, and it's like some of the most rewarding volunteer work I've ever done. Check them out, Saving Snouts, and if you want to donate to us for any of that stuff, you can tell us where you want the money to go, and use it for that.
I think that's great. You do that.
It's just, I get a lot of the credit for what the rest of our volunteer team does because it's my name on the thing. But it's really just a group of people that care and want to be able to help because we all have bleeding hearts. And so right now our funds are pretty low. So we're not able to do much, but we're trying, So
You've done a lot of Mile of Music shows under different names. Like I'm just looking here. You got Walt Hamburger and the Taste Buddies.
Yeah.
Walt Hamburger and the Young Buns.
Yep.
So
there's more.
What are some of the other ones?
There's just Walt Hamburger. I didn't even get announced as me this year. They just didn't. So there's the Bad Puns this year, and then we had one more, the Young Guns. That's how it started. So when Young Guns, then somebody's like, you should be Young Buns. And we're like, that's funny. And none of us thought about like the other side of what that could mean. And then as soon as we thought of that, we're like, oh, nope. And then there was Taste Buddies, or maybe it was Bad Puns first and Taste Buddies was last. Most of those, just like songs on the Keys of Beef or Key of Beef, were just like things people said as a joke. And I'm like, yep, that's it. The Young Guns was because Aaron and Jason were older than me, so I thought it'd be funny if I called them Young Guns. And then Young Buns was a drunk guy at a bar named Gus Graff. Shout out, Gus. And then I forget who did Taste Buddies. That might have been Todd. He comes up with a lot of stuff.
Again, Todd.
Texas Butter Todd. Both my parents, all three of them actually, because I got a stepdad too, they call him Texas Butter Toast. None of them can get it.
But Hamburgers were supposed to have a reunion at Mile of Music. It got rained out, and you guys moved it to Misfits.
Yeah, that was a very stressful day for me.
2018, I think.
Because, it just rained, and then the sound guy just left that stage. So that stage was abandoned, and they didn't have any backups because, I remember Taylor Greenwood, maybe the best promoter I've ever met.
Also one of the nicest guys.
Yeah, he was crying because he just didn't have a spot for us. And we were the only band that only had one show. So it was just, that was it, or nothing. And they were so nice at Misfits. Tobin had a show going already. And he said, we could add you on. So we ended up playing last at that. And that place was so freaking packed. Like, my parents couldn't even get in. I just told them to go home because we were recording it. But then the recording broke, so we only got one song. But, I mean, it was just so many people were there. It was crazy. It was full outside, around the outside of the back, on the side, and, like, the patio. I never played. I played there one other time just by myself on a terrible show. But it had nothing to do with the bar. It was the people I was playing with. But I think I was really sick. But that was a pretty legendary night. I'm glad we got one more in before everything fell apart there.
So, I mean, I'm surprised, Mile, they didn't have a stage open they could put you guys on.
No. No. Because, it wasn't just us that got rained out. It was like a hour-and-a-half storm. And
because you guys were on the alley?
Yeah, we were like behind the museum, kind of.
Oh.
I think it worked out better because we were a club show band, So to play in a club felt right. But Tony said that when he gets up, I shouldn't mention it, but he's like way over there. Did I call you Tony?
You did.
God damn it.
I'll pretend it didn't happen.
That's
it happens, Walt. It's okay.
But at least I knew. Oh, man. This is why you don't go over an hour.
So Troy wants to know when the next
I'm so sorry.
Troy wants to know when the next show is.
Who?
Troy. He's viewing. He's on the...
Hi, Troy.
He's viewing right now.
Do I know Troy?
I don't think so.
Oh. We got some dumb stuff coming up, I think. Let's see. The week before Mile, we're at Fox River House. It's for the Saturday matinee thing. I think we play at like 5 o'clock. I think we're playing the Oshkosh Festival, but at this point we're not, so I guess I wouldn't say that. We're doing Mile. But just a few shows this year. I think we only have 2 as of now. So, and they might just be Thursday and Friday. So look, like usually you can just find me everywhere there, but I think I'm only there for a little bit. And then we're playing with Belvedere, actually. That band that I've been touring Europe and Canada with quite a bit. It's our first tour in U.S. in many, many years, maybe 20 years, at Badger State Brewing in August 29. 26, I don't know, one of the days. It's a Friday. And that'll be fun. And those are all actually the full band, Bad Puns, except for maybe one at Mile. But like I said, they didn't announce me, so I don't know what that means.
And then you said the third album should be coming out soon.
Well, soon's relative,
recorded.
right? Yeah, I mean, we started working on it 2 years ago. The problem we had this time was we mixed it a bunch, but then it turned out something was wrong with the mixing. He had to remix the whole thing, poor guy. Neil, I just have to give a huge shout out to the patience of Neil Hennessy, who on a daily basis works with so many people that are so much more famous and nice than me. I mean, he's on tour with Weezer right now. He's just hanging out with Weezer every day, and he still's working on it. And all the different times he's had to go back and mix, I feel so bad. But he's doing an incredible job, and I'm really excited for people to hear the record. It's got some of the song, like a lot of the songs I play live now are on that, but just not released yet. And whenever it happens, I'm excited for people to hear, and then I'll start touring heavy again. Last year, touring really beat me up. I did 2 in Canada and 2 in Europe. I was gone for like 3 months. It was difficult. So this year I just had like maybe one more in the fall, and then next year probably ramping it up again when the record comes out, if it does indeed come out. Because like I said, I'm very much at the whim of the Weezers of the world.
Thank you for doing this, Walt.
Yeah, are we about halfway done, or
we're done?
Well, that was easy.
But you know what? I think you should come back with Car City. That would be fun.
Ah.
I could ask you the same questions and see if you answer them the same.
Yeah, I would like that. Just to get us together, and like our band practice is about a block from here, so you can come in and do a live recording while we're practicing if you want.
If people want to find out more about Walt Hamburger, obviously go to the website, but then probably go to your Facebook.
Come to Europe.
You've got 2 Facebook pages. You've got your personal, and then you've got Walt Hamburger Musician.
Yeah, that's another thing I neglect, huh?
And it's like double the stuff to pay attention to.
It's hard. It's hard. You know, like you think you know what you're doing. Wait, who's that guy?
I don't know where.
I'm looking at the Dusk photo. Oh no, he's still in Dusk. Forget it. Oh, Amos would have appreciated that if he'd been in my brain. That guy's still in Dusk, and I didn't know who he was.
Any parting words, Walt?
Ska bands, man.